Imagine this. Tonight before you close your eyes, you speak only 7 words. Just 7. Not a long prayer, not a secret mantra, not even some ancient formula. Just one short, direct sentence. And if you speak it with awareness, it can shift your unconscious and quietly shape the days ahead. Carl Jung once said that when the mind goes to sleep in peace, it creates a reality that is more in tune with the soul. But most people don't fall asleep peacefully. They fall asleep in conflict, with guilt, with worry, with unspoken thoughts, and with old fears that grow louder in the silence of night. What Jung discovered is that the unconscious never rests. It keeps working while you sleep. And if the last thing it receives is harmful, then it creates dreams of harm. It builds exactly what it was given. It brings that energy to life. But there is a remedy, a simple set of 7 words. These words are not powerful because of language alone. Their strength lies in the act of saying them, in the moment itself, in the symbol they represent. What you give to your unconscious at the end of the day becomes the imprint it carries through the night. Jung called this a threshold imprint, something that crosses the line between waking and sleeping, planting itself like a seed in the deeper layers of the psyche. This is why so many people wake up exhausted, even after hours of rest. They dream of loss, betrayal, and fear because they unknowingly fed their mind with anger, worry, or resentment just minutes before falling asleep. But if you say these 7 words with real intention, the unconscious listens, and it begins to answer. Not because the words are magic, but because they create connection, because they act as a symbol, because they are a gesture of surrender. Jung explained that the unconscious mind is like a mirror that reflects whatever you hand it. If you go to bed with bitterness, your unconscious shapes bitterness. If you feed it worry, it shapes more worry. But if you give it a symbol of peace, it begins to shape peace. That's why these 7 words are so important. They are not about religion, not about magic, and not about superstition. They are about directing your mind at the one moment when it is most open, right before sleep. Think of the unconscious like fertile soil. Whatever seed you drop in at the end of the day, it will plant and water through the night. In the morning, you wake to the first signs of what was planted. For many people, this explains the cycle they feel trapped in. They wake heavy. They dream restless dreams. Their days begin with the residue of nights filled with fear, stress, or anger. They don't realize they are handing their unconscious the wrong seed over and over again. But once you recognize the process, you see how simple the shift can be. You do not need long rituals. You do not need secret knowledge. You just need to feed your unconscious a different imprint at the doorway of sleep. Jung often said that symbols carry the deepest power. A word is more than sound. A phrase is more than grammar. When spoken at the right time, it bypasses the surface mind and lands directly in the hidden layers beneath. That is what these 7 words do. They give shape to the idea of release. They give form to peace. They invite the unconscious to take a different path than the one it usually travels. When people hear this, some resist. They think it is too simple. They want the complicated answer. But simplicity is exactly why it works. The unconscious responds not to clutter, but to clarity. And here lies the secret. When spoken with intent, clarity has more strength than complexity. Jung believed that the last thought before sleep acts like a command. It directs the dream, and the dream directs the unconscious. The unconscious, in turn, begins to shape the waking world in line with what it has absorbed. This chain continues night after night, quietly shaping a person's reality. So, what happens when you close your day with anger? Your unconscious absorbs it, dreams it, and plants it deeper. What happens when you close with fear? It grows stronger in the dream world and waits for you in the morning. But what if you close your day with release, with a symbol of letting go? Then your unconscious begins to dream of release. It prepares a ground for freedom, rather than conflict. The 7 words Jung spoke about are meant to be that release. They are not complicated. They are not meant to impress the surface mind. They are only meant to reach the deeper levels, which respond not to argument, but to image and symbol. The human mind often struggles to accept this. We are trained to think that the harder something is, the more powerful it must be. But the unconscious works differently. It is not persuaded by effort. It is moved by clarity. That is why the 7 words must be short, simple, and clear. Their strength comes not from detail, but from directness. You are not explaining to the unconscious. You are showing it. You are placing a seed where it can grow without resistance. This is also why rituals around bedtime are so powerful. For example, if you have ever fallen asleep after watching a movie, you may find yourself dreaming about it. If you fall asleep after listening to music, it may echo through your dreams. The unconscious absorbs the last impression without judgment. Jung explained that this is exactly how the 7 words function. They become the movie, the music, the last taste, before the mind slips into the hidden world of sleep. And from there, they ripple outward, into the dream, into the unconscious, and finally into the waking life. This is not about magic. It is about alignment. The unconscious always listens. The question is only, what do you give it as the final message of your day? Jung often reminded his students that the unconscious does not argue. It does not ask questions or demand proof. It simply accepts what it is given and works with it. This is why the last impression before sleep carries such weight. You are handing over a message, and the unconscious takes it as truth. Now imagine what happens when that final message is chaos. Anger from an argument, fear from the news, or regret about something left undone. The unconscious does not filter it. It simply takes it in, plays it through the dream, and strengthens it. The next day begins under its influence. And this cycle repeats until a person feels trapped in the same patterns again and again. But when the final message is peace, when it is release, the cycle begins to change. Night after night, the unconscious receives a new command, a new image, a new seed. And just as a garden changes when new seeds are planted, life changes when the unconscious is fed with release instead of fear. This is why Jung considered symbols so vital. A symbol bypasses debate. It does not need to be explained. It reaches directly into the depths where change begins. The 7 words he spoke of are not meant for the surface mind. They are meant for this deeper place. Think about your own nights for a moment. What do you usually give your mind as the final impression before sleep? Is it peace? Or is it tension, fear, and worry? And let me ask you something else. Are these ideas connecting with you right now? Do you feel the truth of this in your own experience? If so, I'd love for you to tell me in the comments. Let me know where you're watching this video from, and share if you can relate. Your voice matters here. When you share, it helps others recognize the same patterns in themselves. And if you're enjoying this work, I'd be grateful if you show some support. If you find value in what I'm sharing, let me know, because your encouragement keeps this work alive. So stay with me, because we are just beginning to uncover how these 7 words reshape the hidden world inside you. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious responds best to repetition. One seed planted once may sprout, but a seed planted again and again creates roots. This is why speaking the 7 words each night has power. It is not about one moment of change, but about steady influence, shaping the hidden mind over time. Every night before sleep becomes a chance to direct this process. The unconscious is always listening. The only question is whether you leave it with noise and confusion, or with a symbol that carries peace. Some people dismiss this. They think that a few simple words cannot change anything. But think of how many lives have been shaped by a single phrase. A blessing spoken over a child, an insult repeated in youth, a promise whispered in love. Words shape us, whether we recognize it or not. The 7 words work in the same way. They do not need to be grand or poetic. They need to be clear, intentional, and repeated. In this way, they begin to shift the pattern of dreams, the activity of the unconscious, and eventually, the flow of daily life. Jung explained that when you practice this, you are not escaping reality. You are aligning with it more deeply. You are no longer letting fear or anger decide the path of your nights. Instead, you are handing your unconscious a different map, one that points toward peace. And here, I want to pause for a moment. If you are finding value in this message, I invite you to subscribe to my channel, SYC Soul. Like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss what's coming next. I share more of Jung's teachings and other insights that can guide your inner life. And if you know someone who could use this, please share it with them too. Now, let's return. The act of repeating these words is not superstition. It is psychology. It is the simple fact that the unconscious is impressionable. When you know this, you stop leaving impressions to chance. You begin to choose them. And in that choice lies freedom. So when you stand at the edge of sleep tonight, remember, the words you speak are not small. They are the seeds of the reality you will live tomorrow. Jung pointed out that most people underestimate the link between dreams and daily life. They think of dreams as random or meaningless, but he showed that dreams are the language of the unconscious. They are the way the hidden mind reveals what it has absorbed. When your final thoughts before sleep are filled with fear or resentment, your unconscious expresses them in the dream. And though you may forget the dream, the feeling stays. You wake carrying it, without realizing where it came from. That feeling then colors your day. But when the last impression is peace, when the final words are about release, the dream world changes. The unconscious receives a new message, one that it can shape into images of freedom instead of struggle. Even if you don't remember the dream, you feel the difference in the morning. You wake lighter, more rested, more ready for the day ahead. This process is not magic, it is rhythm. Night after night, the unconscious follows the same patterns. Change the pattern, and the rhythm begins to shift. Over time, this shift shows itself not only in dreams, but in health, energy, and even relationships. Jung emphasized that the unconscious is not an enemy. It is not trying to trap you. It only mirrors what it is given. If you give it conflict, it reflects conflict. If you give it peace, it reflects peace. The choice is always present, though most people do not realize they have it. This is why the 7 words are powerful. They are simple enough for the unconscious to absorb without resistance. They are short enough to be repeated each night without effort. And they carry the symbol of release, which opens a new path. Think about it. How many nights of your life have been handed to fear? How many mornings have you woken under the weight of yesterday's worry? Now imagine those same nights given instead to peace, to surrender, to clarity. The unconscious would not only listen, it would begin to reshape your experience of life itself. And so, these 7 words are less about ritual and more about responsibility. They remind you that the final thought before sleep matters. It is the key you hand to the unconscious. And whatever key you choose, it will open a door that shapes your tomorrow. Jung often described the unconscious as a deep river flowing beneath our everyday awareness. We may not see it directly, but it shapes the landscape of our lives. Every thought, every feeling, every symbol dropped into it becomes part of its current. Over time, that current shapes our direction, whether we notice it or not. This is why the last words before sleep matter so deeply. They are like dropping a stone into that hidden river. The ripples spread far beyond the moment itself. A single impression can echo through the night, into dreams, and into the waking day that follows. Many people live without realizing how much control they actually have. They assume their moods, their energy, even their luck are random. But Jung showed that what feels random often has roots in the unconscious. When you change what you feed it, you change what it returns to you. Think about it. A person who falls asleep every night, worried about money, will dream of lack. They will wake already carrying that fear, and throughout the day, they will notice every sign of scarcity. Their unconscious has been trained to expect it. But a person who ends the night with release gives the unconscious a new lens. Instead of scarcity, it can begin to dream of possibility. And with time, the waking mind follows. This does not mean that every problem disappears overnight. Jung never promised that. What he explained is that the unconscious sets the foundation. And when the foundation shifts, everything built upon it begins to shift as well. The 7 words are the tool for this. They act as a signal. They tell the unconscious, tonight we release, tonight we rest, tonight we let go. And once that command is given, the unconscious does the rest of the work. Most people wait for outer circumstances to change before they allow themselves peace. Jung turned this idea around. He said, give yourself peace first, and outer circumstances will begin to move in response. This is why the practice of speaking 7 words before sleep is more than habit. It is a quiet act of transformation. And so, each night offers a choice. Will you hand the unconscious the weight of your worries? Or will you give it the symbol of release? The decision is always yours. Jung made it clear that the unconscious is always active. Even when the body rests, the deeper mind is awake, processing, weaving, and shaping. It never truly sleeps. That is why the moments before sleep are so powerful. They are the handoff between the conscious and the unconscious. What you deliver in that handoff sets the tone for everything that follows. Think of it like this. If you give the unconscious a story of fear, it will expand that story in dreams. If you give it resentment, it will play that resentment through the night. But if you give it a symbol of peace, it begins to shape peace instead. The unconscious doesn't argue. It simply takes what you give and multiplies it. This explains why some people live in cycles that feel unbreakable. They go to bed with the same worries, night after night. Their unconscious absorbs it again and again, until the pattern becomes fixed. By morning, they already feel defeated, because the dream has prepared them for defeat. And so the circle continues. But there is another way. By choosing the 7 words as your final thought, you interrupt that cycle. You give the unconscious a new seed. At first, it may feel small, almost invisible. But with each night, the seed takes deeper root. The dream world shifts. The feelings on waking begin to change. And slowly, life itself adjusts to match the new rhythm. Jung believed that symbols are the true language of the unconscious. Words, when used as symbols, bypass the surface mind and go directly to the deeper levels. This is what gives the 7 words their strength. They are not about cleverness or logic. They are about resonance, about speaking directly to the place where change begins. This is why repetition matters. The first time you speak them, the soil is prepared. The second time, the seed is watered. With each night, the roots grow stronger until the unconscious naturally turns toward peace. It is a slow, steady transformation, but one that lasts. So when you think about these 7 words, don't see them as a trick or a secret. See them as a key, a small action with large consequences, unlocking a different way of relating to yourself and to your life. Jung explained that the unconscious has its own kind of intelligence. It is not logical like the conscious mind, but it is powerful in shaping experience. It takes in impressions, turns them into images, and uses those images to influence how we see and feel in daily life. This is why the final impression before sleep is never wasted. It always leaves a mark. When people carry the same burdens into sleep, night after night, those burdens grow heavier. The unconscious magnifies them. But when a person chooses to release those burdens with a simple phrase, the unconscious begins to loosen its grip. It does not happen all at once, but with time, the inner current shifts. The The 7 words are important because they are simple. They are not weighed down with explanation. They do not confuse the unconscious with details. They go straight to the point, offering a clear image of release. That clarity is what allows the unconscious to accept and act on them. Many people wonder why they feel stuck, even when they try to think positively during the day. Jung would say it is because they do not realize the role of the unconscious at night. If the unconscious is still fed with fear and anger before sleep, no amount of surface positivity can undo that. True change requires reaching the place where the real work happens, and that is in the hidden depths of the mind. So the practice becomes simple. Each night, as the conscious mind prepares to let go, you speak the 7 words. You hand them over like a gift. You do not need to force anything. You do not need to control the dream. You only need to trust the process. Jung's work showed again and again that the unconscious responds to what is consistent. A single attempt may feel small, but repeated night after night, the results build. The dream world shifts. The waking mind feels lighter. Life slowly moves into a new pattern. In this way, the 7 words become more than a sentence. They become a doorway. Every night, you step through it into a different kind of rest, one where peace is allowed to take root and grow. By the 3rd night, something inside begins to notice. It realizes that it is being heard, not by the world, but by yourself. Jung said much of human suffering comes from ignoring the inner self, from leaving the soul's voice unheard. When you speak these 7 words each night, you reconnect with that voice. You rebuild the bridge between your conscious mind and your deeper self. You start to notice small shifts. Anger fades without effort. Resentment loosens. Problems that seemed overwhelming feel smaller, not because they disappeared, but because your perspective has changed. It is as if the universe whispers, "Now that you hear yourself, I can guide you." And it does, in subtle moments, in dreams, in unexpected insights, in thoughts that once weighed you down, but now pass like clouds. These changes are not accidents. Jung called them synchronicities. When the unconscious aligns with your intention, life responds. Not magically, but naturally. You notice what was hidden before. You feel lighter, calmer, clearer. What once controlled you loses its power because the soul has found its voice. 7 words, 3 nights, and a quiet act of surrender. That is enough. True transformation begins in silence, in the stillness of your room, in the last breath of the day. Jung saw sleep not just as rest, but as a journey for the soul. When you leave your day behind with intention, the unconscious awakens and begins to work with what you have offered. It may feel small at first, but over time, this practice becomes part of who you are. You grow calmer, more present, more whole. You no longer try to control the world. Instead, you trust the deeper rhythm of life. The 7 words are just the start. The practice, the daily attention, is the path, and the change becomes inevitable. Even if no one notices, even if the world seems unchanged, you feel it. You breathe differently, respond differently, live differently. The soul has been heard, and everything subtly begins to align. Jung said that when suffering meets love and attention, it begins to heal. These words are not magic. They are reminders that you deserve rest, peace, and care. Speak them each night. Accept, trust, let go, thank yourself. Good night. 7 words can quietly change everything.